You were working in Father of the Bride and the sequel to that about a year later, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact years. I'm sure you're right.
Yeah, well, this came out in '49, and Father of the Bride came out in 1950. Father's Little Dividend, 1951. So, and that sort of got you started on your contract with them, which obviously led to some really amazing roles.
Yeah, it sure did. And oddly enough, I never got anything that I ever auditioned for. How about that?
I got parts you didn't audition for.
The parts I didn't audition for, I mean, with West Side Story, I didn't audition. I auditioned for another part in it. I didn't audition in anything else I auditioned for. I didn't get. I must have been a terrible actor in the, when I went in for auditions, because it never turned out in my favor. But at NGM they gave me great parts, and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and Hit the Deck, and yeah, and then, like Seven Brides was. I'm the last brother alive. All the rest of them have passed away.
I'd like to ask you something about Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. We
Sure.
talked about it earlier in the green room. As many of our cinephiles know, the film was shot in two different aspect ratios. So you had to film a lot of it 2 times, but you were telling me that not everything was filmed twice.
Yeah, they didn't have to fit. They didn't have to. They could just edit it. So they didn't shoot it all, but only the shots that everybody was in, like in the barn dance, and we were all lined up. So they had to reshoot that, and and that was probably one of my main movies that I made. That afterwards. I got a lot of publicity from, and did a lot of fan magazine layouts, and I became popular, and that none of them knew how lousy I really was.
Well, you said in your book that you really, at that point in your life, didn't think of yourself as a dancer, but more of like a tumbler or an acrobat, or how would you describe yourself at that point?
Yeah, I was at Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I was. What happened is that the Michael Kidd was the choreographer, and he wanted all the brothers, of course, with the exception of Howard Keel, but he wanted the other 6 brothers. He wanted all of them to be great dancers, and the studio said, "No, sorry, you can have 4 great dancers and 2 of our actors that are under contract." So that's how it started, and the other brother was Jeff Richards, who was the oldest brother, Benjamin, and he not only couldn't dance, he didn't even like dancers. He thought they were all sissies. So we went. So Jeff and I we went to visit the other brothers. Were on the sound stage, and they were learning some dance steps, and Michael Kidd came over and said, "Hey, somebody told me you're an acrobat, that you can do tumbling." I said, "Yeah." So I did a backflip right on the spot in my clothes, and did a backflip, and he says, "Oh my God, we're going to use that we'll use that in the barn dance." And I said, "Wait a minute. I don't want to dance with Jacques Dubois from the New York City Ballet, and Matt Maddox and Tommy Roll and all these great dancers." And he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "It's mostly barn dancing." And oddly enough, in that movie, there was one of the numbers in it was called "Goin' Dancin'" or "Goin' Courtin'."
Yeah.
And Janie Powell sings us all. We're all in the room, and she sings this song, go in court and do a fancy ball and minuet. And then she says, go and dancing, and all the brothers go and dancing. And so right away, the dancers like Jacques Dubois, and they right away got into fifth position, and they were supposed to be learning how to dance. And I could just lift my shoulders up and jump around. And Michael Kidd thought, that's perfect. That's what that's what I want. So in one big dance scene, Michael put me in front, and I ended up just jumping around, and then jumping up and falling down on the floor and saying, keep your dancing. So I lucked out because we weren't supposed to be dancers. When I introduced Seven Brides at some event, and it was really interesting because I said, listen, I'm introducing the movie. I said, can you imagine coming to MGM and say, listen, I got a great idea for a movie. It's going to be a musical comedy based on the rape of the Sabine women.
Never thought of it like that before.
And true story, and the studio probably says, God, that's a great idea. Yeah. So who are you going to get to play all these backwoodsmen, who are really tough and fighting and everything? And he says, ballet dancers. It's all true. And so that's how Seven Brides got
I love that
started.
When you were talking about Jane Powell, you went Janie Powell.
Oh yeah, well, she called me Rusty and I called her Janie.
And you also went to school with Elizabeth Taylor, right? You were in the same schoolhouse with her?
Yes.
At MGM?
Yeah, we were in the red schoolhouse, and I was just in her last year when she was graduating, and it was Elizabeth and Dean Stockwell, who became a very close friend, like a brother there, and who else? Oh, and then this other actor, Claude German Jr. was his name, and he was in a movie called The Yearling. He was a big, tall, a blonde kid, but yeah, that was in the. I don't know if I could tell this story or not. But,
I don't know. If you can't tell it, we want to hear it.
Well, there was a moment when we were in school, and Elizabeth raised her hand to go to the bathroom, and so Miss McDonald, who was the teacher, said, "Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth." So she went into the bathroom, and she was in there for like 15 or 20 minutes in the bathroom. And when she finally came out, and Miss McDonald said, "Elizabeth, you couldn't possibly have been going to the bathroom all that time." And Elizabeth said, "Oh yeah, go in there and smell."
This interview's taken a strange left turn.
One of those inside jokes,
Boy, I forget every question I was going to ask.
And scene.